But it was more than that, wasn't it? That perhaps the country was hankering for a particular kind of leadership. It was hankering for someone who would boost their spirits. And Ronald Reagan seemed to be made for the job. You talked about FDR being a great communicator. Ronald Reagan understood how to talk to people. He understood how to engage with ordinary folks. He had a sunny disposition. Yeah. He had a sense of possibility. He thought that the best days for America were ahead. That must have been a very seductive message for people at that particular moment in history.
Absolutely. And to his credit, I mean, he was all of those things. I mean, as someone who at the time was a young student who was skeptical of the content of the message, I knew whenever he said something that a large fictitious story was not far behind, that he often said things that were palpably untrue. And there was a book I remember buying in the early 80s called Reagan's Reign of Error, which is just a long anthology of quotations of his that were just factually incorrect. Mostly because he may have believed they were correct or things he'd heard. There were little stories and anecdotes. He sometimes confused reality with movie scripts that he'd read. And he openly said, the point is not to be true. It's to tell the good story because this is what people need.
Was he right?
Well, to his credit, and this is what I'll say about American historians, every once in a while gather, or C-SPAN gathers them together and has them rank American presidents. And it's a fun exercise, particularly because as Donald Trump is having to live with the idea that American historians don't rank him very highly. He's always at the bottom of these polls. But Reagan is somewhere in around 10th. It could be higher, given the perception that he has, particularly amongst Republicans now. He could be much higher. But his reputation has been improving over the last few years.
How come?
I think because of what's come since. So at the time, you see the Iran-Contra scandal, which I was in graduate school in the United States when that was unfolding.
Can you just briefly explain what that was?
So essentially, the United States was banned by congressional law, by the Boland Amendment, from sending money to Nicaraguan right-wing revolutionaries known as the Contras. Reagan was determined to support the Contras, even though his advisor saying you can't, it breaks congressional law. It is illegal to do that. So that scandal unfolded in his second term, and there were hearings about what Reagan knew and when he knew it. Was he aware that this was going on underneath him? And anyway, so that hurt his reputation in the long run, for sure. What I was going to say was, in terms of the way presidents rank him retrospectively, they rank him very low for his administration. He was not in touch with what was going on around him.
He wasn't interested.
He was not interested.
It wasn't his thing.
He couldn't pay attention to things that were in front of him. He didn't have serious thoughts about them. But he was really good at reading a script and communicating with people. So he gets
and he wrote his own scripts.
And he wrote his own scripts, and he knew how to deliver them in a way. It's quite refreshing to actually hear him. Even in that address, I was struck in 1987, quite late in his presidency, how articulate. I know he's reading it, but he was a very articulate.
Very warm and very genial kind of person.
Yeah. So this was all very good. And the context why historians rank that highly in particular, and having a sense of vision of restoring America on the world stage, was also restoring the presidency after the 1970s, after Watergate.
After Jimmy Carter.
But the whole office of the presidency had fallen into disrepute because of the corruption of Nixon and the fecklessness of Carter, or the perceived fecklessness of Carter.
He was seen as being weak somehow.
Yeah. I mean, he was undeniably, he has this great post-presidential career where he redeems himself to a considerable degree, and his presidency has been viewed a little bit better. But nonetheless, what Reagan did that appeals to American historians is to reestablish the credibility and moral authority of the presidency. Even if you don't agree with what he was fighting for and what he wanted to do, or you disagree with his economic policies or his foreign policies, nonetheless, he restored the respect that the American people had for that office and set the stage for what other future presidents could do if they wanted to.